Welcome to another edition of Vintage Drum Restoration Garage with your old pal Bruce. Well, today we're going to go back in time and talk about Radio King snare drums. You're all familiar with these wooden models. Great drums. And did you know that they made a metal one? A metal shell Radio King, yes they did. There's the 1968 version of it, chrome over brass shell. The new Radio King chrome shell snare drum, they called it back then. Well, would you believe that they made this drum back in the 30s too? And probably because of the war effort, they just stopped making them. Plus, probably most people didn't want a metal shell snare drum. So I suppose around maybe 1942, I don't know. I'm not sure when they stopped making metal shell Radio King snare drums, but they didn't make them very long. So here we are. Back to this catalog that you folks have already seen. I've showed you before. And here's the drum we're talking about. The Radio King metal shell snare drum. And it's a one-piece metal shell. They say in this particular edition that the Radio King was only offered in a 6.5 by 14, and if you wanted chrome it was $45. If you wanted nickel, $35. But I know that they did make 5 by 14s. This is the wooden. They're talking about wood here. This is the metal one. So they only offered the 6.5 at this juncture. I don't know when this catalog was made. 1936 it says here. So what we have here is an interesting drum today. Remove this stuff here. And I recently came across this metal shell Radio King. This thing weighs about, I don't know, I'm gonna have to weigh it. I'll weigh it before the end of this video, and we'll see what this thing weighs. It's quite heavy. They call it a seamless brass shell. Now I've already buffed this thing out, but we're kind of going backwards here. So when I got this drum, the only parts I got with it were 7 lugs, a tone control with no knob on it, 2 extension bridges, and they came just like this with no, the covers weren't there and the screws weren't there to make them like this, to where they're adjustable. I happen to have these parts, and so I have actually I'll show you later how I restored these. Like I say, we're working backwards. I wasn't even going to film any of this, but I thought, well, what the heck. What else did I get with the drum? I got 2 hoops. 2 real Radio King hoops. Now on these earlier Radio King hoops, well, this one's losing its plating here. We're gonna not worried about that. But these earlier Radio King hoops, this was actually engraved in the hoop. You can see the engraving marks if you look closely. Most of them were stamped after 1940, but they got 1940s. Maybe late 40s they started stamping them. I'm not sure the exact timing. This drum is chrome plated. And look at it, it has the removable gates on the bottom hoop. Unlike most Radio Kings, you'd see this kind of a hoop with the rivets in them. And most Radio Kings did not have adjustable bridges. So that makes this drum special. The drum came to me damaged, quite a bad. It had been dropped on the bearing edge. I'll show you a picture right now. And those are the pictures of it, the damage. It was quite extensive. And I'm not a metal worker, but I was able to repair it to where at least it's flat now across the edge, and it's going to have some dents and bruises, but I was able to get it all back in shape. But I wish I was a better metal worker. And you can see the brass popping through the chrome where it came off. I had to buff it out. I had to sand it several times. I didn't go down real low on the metal, but I think this drum's going to turn out to be quite a great player drum. So those are the specs on what I'm working with. And now we are going to start by working on these bridges and getting them all together. All right, here we go. Bridges. And I've just freed all these adjusters up. They're working perfectly, but I wanted to give you an idea how I do that. Now, what happens is this, on one of these extension bridges, these parts just go up and down with these screws and adjust the snares so they ride right flat with the head. It's really a great invention. Too bad they didn't keep doing it, but it was just one of those things. And here's the screw that goes in one of these, and it just goes up and down. I haven't cleaned the threads on this one here. I'm just showing you that. So we've got one here that these screws will not turn. So you'll see right here, you'll see the slot here. You got to get yourself a real small. If you look closely, you'll see the slot in the screw. Whoops. The slot in the screw right there. You just move this plate over a bit. Real small screwdriver. Make sure it fits in there real good. And we've got to get this thing to turn. So I've soaked this thing in liquid wrench here. It's a pretty good product. I'll give it another squirt right now. I soaked it for about 12 hours now in liquid wrench. But now this one here is completely locked up. So I want to get another screwdriver here and kind of get it to move. Because we can't let these things get broken. So what I do is I go forward and backward. See, and I'm getting it to kind of, whoops, I'm getting it to kind of move. It's starting to kind of move, and I'm just slowly getting it to turn both ways. And each time I turn it, it moves a little more. It's breaking that rust or whatever's in there. So just have to slowly go at it. Soak these screws. So what I'm doing right now is I'm tightening it. And then I'll loosen it until I can get this thing to loosen. Just keep slowly turning it. If you break one of these screws, it's not pretty. You're gonna have to make another one of these wheel things that's on here. I've had to do it. It's kind of a problem. Let me loosen this one. These have to kind of come out together. So I'm just get this one loose here now. Well, this one's turning now. Good. Just kind of like go at it slowly. Keep changing your screwdrivers to where to turn. Yep, this one's turning. Okay, I'm getting this one up a little ways. This one's turning pretty good. Now let's go back to this one because they have to kind of come out together, as you can see. Okay, so they're pretty loose. And ready to come out. There it is. Gently take that out of there. Okay, I think that's ready to come out now. And there it is. There's your adjuster screw. Okay, now we've got this all taken apart. I'll take one of these screws over here to the vise, and I've got a die ready to clean all the threads. Just put it in there. And just clean them up slowly. And my last time I'll put a little oil on it. And that's it. Okay, once we've cleaned those threads out real good, it's good idea to put this brake parts cleaner in here. Clean all that. Even your die you want to clean up real good. And blow it out with a little air. Clean it up real good. And then maybe run it through again. These things have to be really smooth. You can see there's still some like rusty stuff on there, so I'm going to just clean it again. Clean that dye out a little bit. And then we'll come over here, and next thing I'm going to do is take this tap and clean out these threads on the extension plate here, extension bridge. Clean those out real good. Spray it out a little bit. Clean those threads out. And then you're ready to oil it up and reinstall your part. And it should work absolutely flawlessly. Yeah, they just spin really easily, and that's what they need to do. There can't be any binding. And now with the wheels all oiled, and just very easily turn these wheels to adjust this plate up and down. So that's nice. That's the way they should work. Okay, let's see what this shell weighs. £4 14 ounces. I forgot to mention I did not have a throw off that came with this drum. No throw off came with it, and I just happened to have an older one. This isn't exactly the right period one because of this fastener here is not exactly right. It would have been more of a nut, like a threaded rod that came out of here, and more of a nut sort of a deal, knob that fastened the handle on, but I don't have one, and so I happen to have a chrome plated 3-point throw off that'll work great on this drum, so I'm going to use that. And then also I did not have the tension rods. I did not have tension rods that came with this drum. I happen to have 16 chrome plated tension rods, so they're going to go great on this drum, and these are the exact right ones. You can see by the flat head on them. Look at the flat heads, very short, and just the right size. These came off of a 6.5-inch drum. So I'm short one lug. I've just ordered a lug on eBay, and I had a lug here in my parts bin, but it's just not the right, look of it. You can see here, this is the original lug. See how thick the casting is and how thin this 40s one is. Also, you see the little, it's rounded in here, which probably gives it more strength too. Another thing that's different about this 40s lug compared to the 30s lug is the profile is a little bit taller on the 40s one, so that kept me from going ahead and filing this lug. I've got one of these 30s lugs coming. I don't know when he'll send it, so we'll get to that, and I'll go ahead and file a rounded curve in the lug. I would have done that to this lug, but it's just not the right one. It doesn't look correct. You can see this one stands up a little bit higher than this one. Can't have that. Okay, so we've got 6 lugs mounted on the shell. The bridges are all on there. And got both bridges on. Now I'm going to work on this throw off and get it working and installed. Okay, we're now back working on this throw off. I want to install that one next. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it all apart real quick. And I'm going to clean all the parts, make sure everything's working right before we install it. But we've got one problem here. You know, ultimately, this is what we want. We want this kind of screw in the bottom of the plate. But see, now this is a newer plate. This is probably from the 60s. And I just want to show you that as an example. But they're a little bit different. See how this little button here that is threaded for the, you know, the tensioning screw to go in, looks a little bit flatter. That's the one we want. So I want to use this piece, but as you see, this one's got all the holes for the snare cords to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the center hole here and I'm going to tap it out so we can put a screw in it, because I want to use the metal band ended wires on this drum. You know, this the metal band, and it goes on here, and it has to screw into the top of that piece like this for these kind of snare wires. And these are the kind of wires I want to use on this drum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I've already located the screw, and I know the thread pattern. I just need to get my handle up. We're going to tap it. I wanted to show you another one of these parts that does have these screw threads in it, and Slingerland did this. So I would use this one, but it's a nickel plated one. See, they're exact. The right little button on the top there that's threaded. It's the wrong color. I want that chrome. So I'm going to tap that hole right now. Put a little bit of oil on. Okay guys, I went ahead and just tapped that off camera because I just got started and I was away from the camera, and here we go. The screw's in there, that's the way it's going to be. So I'm going to clean up these parts. Not much needs to be done to the throw off. It's pretty much in good working order. I just want to clean it, so let me clean it all up and we'll install it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this part in here. Everything moves freely. And I'm going to put this part here. You put a little bit of this lube on this thread here. Is everything moving just nicely? Yeah, that feels pretty good now. Oh yeah, that works real good. Then I'll install the handle. Put a little bit of lube on there. Ready to go. All right, there she is. Throw off's all assembled, works perfectly. I have the arm down right now, so I can't demonstrate it, but you'll see it works. Now I'm going to work on that tone control. Okay, this is the tone control that I was given with this drum, and this is all I had of it. I think there was a screw here. But you can see it's real rusty and just not that great. So I was digging through my vast collection of parts, and I came up with an even better one that actually had a chrome knob on it. That's chrome, sorry, you can't really tell. And it also had this, I thought it was kind of cool, it had this one green pad on the bottom and one red one. So we went with that because there was less rust on it, and I just thought it was kind of went with this drum well. Okay, we've got these hoops all buffed out, and I've got the gates all buffed out, and the little screws, which are impossible to find. So don't drop them while you're doing it. I just did, and it was brutal. So I'm going to put these on here. I'm going to put the little screws in. Look at how little these things are. And then we're going to go ahead and install, I think, the bottom head and snares and 6 rods. Until this lug gets here, I can't really do anything more, but at least I can keep working. Okay, now I've got my 6 rods cleaned up here. It's an 8 lug drum. I've only got 6 lugs on the drum, but I can start putting at least the bottom hoop on, the head, and I can put the snare wires on, and at least all that stuff will be on there for when I do get the lug coming in the mail. I can shape the cutaway for the bead in the shell here, and when I've got that all done, I can install the other 2 lugs and just put the other parts on. Then I can put the head on the top and the hoop and the rods, and the drum is basically done. But for now, at least I can get this much done. I'm a calfskin head guy, especially on these older drums. I've got a beautiful set of Radio King heads that I've been saving. The slunk head is gorgeous, very thin. And I've got a top head. They both came together on a drum. I can't remember where, but gorgeous heads. They're not too thick. So I'm going to be installing those on this drum. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'll go ahead and let you watch while I put it together, and I'll just put it on high speed. Okay, I've got those 6 rods on there, and I've got these gorgeous 16-strand Slingerland original wires that I've been saving for this particular drum or something similar, and they're in great shape. So I'm going to go ahead and install those right now. I have attached the snare wires to the butt end, and I've gotten these wires centered at an equidistance between the 2 extension bridges. As you can see, they're about the same here. A little bit shorter on this end, which is good because that's where we get our tension. And they're sitting flat on the head. I've got the wheels about where I want them. But as you can see, this strap is too long for this particular model drum. I don't know, this it might have come from a different size drum, so I'm going to have to bend this tab over, cut it and bend a tab over. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now I've cut this band off to my desired length, and I've got it folded over. I folded that piece of metal with these flat vice grips. They did a great job. Look at that bend. Now I've got to get my hole cut in there, so I'm going to take this part out of here. And I'm going to put it on here so I can mark my hole. So what I've done is I've taken and putting that the end of that tab that's folded over in my vise with a little piece of wood in here so it doesn't crush my snare wire ends. And I'm going to drill that hole in there. I'm going to put a center punch on there first. That way I can get a really accurate hole. It's always a good idea, isn't it? That bit was a little bit big. I didn't like that. Got that hole in there now. Let's see how that fits. Okay, that part's all screwed on there. Better if you put this part on the band before you put it on the drum. It just gets too fiddly. And then I'm going to install these wires and get this band a little bit further back than the throw-off side. We've got the snare wires on, and you can see they're sitting really flat across the head there. We'll get these wheels finally adjusted when we've got the head properly tensioned. Hard to do with just 6 lugs on. And here's the throw-off side. Let me put the tension on it. So you can see it's nice and flat there. But we'll get it perfect. That's the beauty of these wheels. They allow you to get your snare wires just the way you want them. Well, look what showed up in the mail today. And I just couldn't wait to get the groove cut in it. So I've done that, and let me just give you a real quick idea how I did that. Not rocket science. It's just you put the, well, you have to make a marking off the old lug for how it's shaped. And then you just put it in your vise with wooden jaws here so you don't screw up the and you've got your half circle drawn out on there with a little pen. And I use this Dremel tool with this, it's like a sanding, it's like sort of like a belt sander, but round. And you just do a little groove, a little bit at a time, keep checking it up against the shell, and before you know it, it fits. Okay, so anyone working on Radio Kings for a long time recognizes these screws. that go on 98% of Radio King lugs. And there's these tall-headed dome-shaped screws. Well, those are not the screws that go in this particular model of drum. This particular model drum would take a regular machine screw like this one, and it would take a cup washer like you'd find on old tube lug drums with metal shells. These cup washers, they're brass, pretty hard to find. I happen to have some. There was one of these. This is the original lug. It came with one screw and one cup. One cup was missing and one screw was missing. So I dug through my huge assortment of screws. Look at this. Got even more than that, but I had to dig through there and find the right old style screws to fit these lugs, and I found them. And so I'm going to clean this. Oh, by the way, this is a nickel plated lug. It's not what I wanted for this drum, but you know, you take what you can get that'll work. Hopefully one day I'll find a chrome plated one to go on this drum, but for the time being this one will work. Okay, I've got all the rods on the drum. Both calfskin heads are on the drum. They fit really nice. And oh, by the way, always cleaned all your threads on your tension rods and your swivel nuts. This is a 1224 die, and then you want to use a 1224 tap in your swivel nuts. Clean them out real good. You get really good tensioning on the drum. Okay, and then oil your rods before you put them in too. Little dab of oil won't hurt a bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over, and we're going to adjust these adjustable bridges. You can see how flat it is across there. And I'm just going to straighten everything out. And I got the snare mechanism on, and I see that we're a little high on this side. Let me just fix this so you can see it. Looks like we're a little high on this side, so you have to take the tension off the drum just to bring that wheel down a little bit. Brought it down. Let's see where it's at now. Maybe just a dab more. Yeah, that's sitting nice and flat. It's just hugging the head real close here. Now we got this side to do. You have a look at that. You know, this side looks pretty darn good. If you can see how flat that is. But what I might want to do is I might want to bring these down just a little bit. Never hurts to have these snares kind of hug the head a little better. Yeah, it's up a little high. Let me bring it all down a little bit. Otherwise they're going to buzz. I think that's pretty darn close. So that's what we have here with this drum here. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little restoration on this gorgeous old Slingerland metal Radio King from the, I believe, late 30s.